Welcome to the Aeon Practice Education Series in partnership with Firm Media, delivering concise and impactful insights for aesthetic and specialty medical practices. Your host, Chris Solhonik.
Today we have a very special guest, Izhak Musli, CEO of Kudos. Izhak, I've known you for a very long time. I know a lot about you, and I know exactly why you're considered an expert and a thought leader in our community, but our listeners might not. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you ended up sort of in the aesthetic space, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks. And thanks for having me on your podcast again. So I will encourage, obviously, the all our listener, go to episode 1, season 1. You're going to hear me again. I was there. So if you just want to hear my story twice, but I'll keep it pretty short. I'll say my background is tech. My entire life I was in tech, entrepreneur, data analytics is like my passion and things that come into me very easily. And so after I was obviously being involved in many different type of businesses outside of the industry, I had the pleasure to launch the first business intelligence dashboard in the aesthetic industry. Had a very successful run, primarily with the plastic surgeons on the side. Post that, I launched Medical PRM, which was the lead management platform. Now leads, everybody looking how to manage leads, but it was a little bit ahead of its time. I was acquired at the time by Simplus, THR. I ran with them for a bit. And post that, I joined Terry Ross as a co-CEO for Apex Platform. We had a successful run as well. We merged the company with Engage Technologies early March 2023. Stayed with the company a bit and then launched Kudos at the beginning of 2025. I'll say, how did I get to the industry? Keep developing different type of solutions, how practices to do better. It seems to work well. Do what I love to do, and the practices enjoy the benefits of it.
I appreciate that. I mean, there's a lot of people that step into the industries that we've been in for a long time because they believe that our client base has a lot of disposable income. They want to tap into that disposable income. And I watch those companies struggle day after day after day because what they haven't learned is that there is disposable income, or there is not necessarily disposable income, but allocated resources or financial resources for people like you or me, but only if we provide value, right? And
I believe it's a value in a relationship in our industry. If you don't really come to do good things and you just look at them as customers and just try to take their money, it's just not going to work.
Sure, but I believe you could be the nicest guy on the planet, and the relationship's going to be over in a couple of years if there's no value there, right? Like,
that's 100%.
There was a day where Firm Media used to build. We still do. I think every year since 2015, we've won an award for our website design. Some of the most beautiful websites in the industry from the American Advertising Federation, which is not a small feat, right? But we used to, back in the day, we used to rely so heavily on the aesthetics of the website and so on and so forth. And then there was a day where I realized, oh, these people actually hired us to put butts in seats. And if that's not what we do, the relationships are going to be short. So
that's exactly correct.
I'm saying that because I think that what you said to me, you told me a story about all the things that you've done. But I was there for most of those things, and I know for a fact that each one of those things you provided value in, and that's why you're so well respected in industries.
Thank you, and I appreciate that.
So I'm excited to have you on the show. We're going to talk about Kudos during this episode. So it's not going to be like episode 1, right, where we talked about sort of revenue cycles and cost of goods and basically making your aesthetic practice or med spa profitable, right? Today, we're going to talk about something a little bit different, which is a new product that you have called Kudos. Can you tell us a little bit about Kudos?
Yeah, Kudos. It was actually, I'm going to take a little bit to the beginning of the idea, because the idea started with Atlas KPI, with the business intelligence dashboard. That's when I analyzed the data of all those practices, I realized two, probably most significant and basic to some business people, but overlooked by practices. The first was managing the leads, which is why I launched Medical PRM that later got acquired very quick when I was still in beta. Because practices getting the phone rings, thanks to marketing companies like you, the leads are not cheap, but they call or they come to the website and nobody touched them unless they book the appointment right there and then. Practices do not follow up. There is no automation. There was no automation at the time. Now there is a little more tools. The second realization I had is, okay, you put so much effort and so much money to acquire this patient, and now he's your patient because he did a service, but now what? And practices didn't have a plan. They come, they used to the healthcare, right? You come, you get what you wanted to get, you leave, and hopefully you're going to come back. Without the plan, the hope normally stays at about less than 50% retention rate. So there is a very good chance I'm going to go and I'm not going to come back, because the next time I'm going to tell the story to my friend, where did I go? And if I have no loyalty or no reason, I'm going to go to wherever they go or try new things, because I'm now excited about all this concept. So I realized that, and that's really when I launched Get Kudos. And it started initially by the name Referrals Booster. That was the very first name I came up with, because I looked into the data, and when I realized there is a significant difference between one practice that can be extremely successful, and when I say successful, I'm not meaning revenue. Revenue is one indicator of success. The true success is on the EBITDA. It's what you go home at the end of the day, what you take home at the end of the year. And so when you look at that and you say, well, those two practices, let's say both of them generating $10 million. One of them is making $4 million in EBITDA, and the other one making $2 million in EBITDA. And you start to look, and you look in all the indicators, and what are some of the main differentiators. I realized that the one that's making the most amount of EBITDA, getting also the most amount of referrals, which ties into a much more holistic concept here of the patient experience that we're going to touch a little bit more in later in this episode. But as a concept, the point of referrals, or the indicator of referrals, is a reflection of everything that you do in your business. When people are happy, they refer their friends. When they're happy, they come back more often. They're happy, they pay more. They come back, they try new services. All of the circle of business works when your patients are happy and start to refer to you their friends and family. And so that's when I started to say, okay, what if I can own just on that? And that's really where it turned into Get Kudos, because it became more than just referrals, because you can ask referrals all day, and some businesses do ask for referrals all day. It doesn't mean that they're going to get them. Right. It all goes together with not just make sure you're top of mind when they speak to their friends, but to the entire experience that they're going to go through, becoming almost a partner inside your business. And unless you can master that, you can give them the house and they were not going to give you their friends. And so Get Kudos, I will say, yes, it's a platform. Yes, it's digital, and it's ultimately, I'm going to say it, incentive type of platforms, right? You can launch different type of incentive, whether it's based on positive activity. As often as you come to my practice, I'll reward you. You spend money, I'll reward you. Bring me friends, I'll reward you. You leave me a review, I can reward you. For any reason that I want, I can also launch you an incentive that will reward you and show you appreciation. But all that is just one digital portion of the solution that covers the whole experience that we work with the practices to deliver. Because, like I said before, I can do all the incentive. I can give you the whole house for free. But unless your experience will be good, you're never going to come back, unless I'm going to lose money, which is, we're going to talk about it. That's a huge mistake that practices do.
Sure. There's something that you said that I'd like to zero in on a little bit, because, annual revenue versus EBITDA, right? How much you get to take home at the end of the day or the end of the year. So commonly overlooked, right? And you mentioned how expensive it is to actually drive a lead to a practice through marketing, right? A lot of practices focus on ROI, right? And I'm not saying ROI isn't an important thing to focus on, right? But one, let's say hypothetically it's $300 to put someone in a seat every time you put someone in your chair, right, for a consult, or you book that. They actually have a surgery or a procedure done, or service provided. Let's say it's $300 to $600 to put that person in that seat, which is fine. But if the practice's job is then to turn them into a raving fan. If they turn them into a raving fan, now there's a lifetime value associated with that particular client that starts to sort of amortize the cost of that particular lead the first time. If they refer somebody, that next lead was, there's a lot of ways you could look at it, but I choose to look at it as
now we start to touch in the organic growth. That's how your business grow naturally healthiest and most profitable.
Sure. Exactly. So I often say to practices, this isn't an exact series of data points for every specialty that I get to consult in. but it's pretty close. Let's say that the average practice that I work with, 60% of their revenue comes from word of mouth, right? If you just relied on word of mouth, that would be a very slow growth process, right? As a marketer, I say to them, look, my job is to be 40% of your practice, right? If I'm driving 40% of your patients into the practice and you're doing the job that you say you do, where you're turning them into raving fans, this is how we grow a practice. My 40% gets to be added to your 60% year after year after year.
Exactly.
I'm
The
excited to talk
compounded
about
growth.
Kudos because I feel like Kudos is going to help solve that problem, right? It's going to make me more successful. So,
That's
you
exactly
ready?
correct. It's then, and some of the marketing companies, those are definitely my potential partners to help.
So let's get started. I have a series of questions I want to ask you. We're going to drill down into this thing. You've been on the show before, so you got it. Most practices spend significant resources trying to acquire new patients. Why do you believe retention and loyalty are often overlooked, and what impact does that have on long-term?
I think I'm going to refer exactly to what we just talked about, compounded growth. There is this concept, it's a syndrome of a lot of businesses. It's called the leaky bucket syndrome. And so when you think about leaky bucket, what does that mean? Make a little hole in your bucket, or think about it when every time you drop into the bucket, something splashes out. That's the retention, that's the leaky problem. And in our industry, it's very common. And we're talking about our industry, and we're talking med spa now, right? Not retention when it comes to plastic surgery. It's a very hard measurements because a patient of a plastic surgery come back every 5 to 7 years to do another surgery unless they're really like in it, right? But we're talking average and the 80%. On the med spa, it's very different ballgame. On the med spa, when you think about retention, it's patients, and let's just talk non-surgical because it's the most common procedure in med spas. Some med spa, depends how they form their treatment plan, and I'm going to touch that as well, expecting the patient to come between every 3 to 5 months. So we call it 4 months normally, right? And then every 4 months they need to come and do touch up, more Botox, more whatever it is that they do. With 50% retention, you get today 2 patients. You're only going to know if you retain them 4 months from now. The most common problem that we have is that I'll remember the one that I connected with, and I'll remember if he's going to come back. I'm not going to remember the quiet ones that just come and disappeared on me and nobody checked. Some of it is the faults of the system that they use today. Don't really help them to manage and stay on top of that. The other thing is that they don't offer the right offering to those people. And when I say the right offering, and I touch the experience, right? The experience starts from the moment you open the door for them and greet them by their name and expect them to come and not, who are you? Give me your phone number, or wait for a second, or fill up this deck of papers. All of that has to do with the experience. But when it comes to the loyalty, when you start to get people on the loyalty, that's when you start to realize the compounded growth. You don't need to chase so many more new people coming through the door unless you're trying to fill up a capacity. And so I said I'm going to touch a little bit between the 3 to the 5 months, because when we think about busy provider, on average, it's 200 patients a month. 200 patients a month for a provider. If I need to fill up the provider and I bring my patients every 3 months, it's 600 patients. That's my book of business, right? With 600 patients, my provider can be very busy. If they all retain, then they come back religiously every 3 months.
Sure.
If I'm now moving those 3 months into 5 months, which think it's not a big difference because we always kind of like, oh yeah, 3 to 5 months. But now we're talking about another 400 patients. So now it's 1,000 patients I need for the book of business. It's a lot more people to retain and a lot more new people to come bring through the door. And so no business will ever gain 100% retention. I have yet to see it, except the people that you ask and never looked into the data. And then they tell you, I retain 100% of my patients. Those are the only people who get 100%, the only ones that don't look at data. But if you look at data, 70, 80%, it's a pretty solid retention for services like that. If the people that only offer the loyalty to only people who are willing to pay for loyalty, I think it's also a loss of opportunity, because I'm flying almost always Delta on airline. I never pay them to be loyal. I just keep giving them business. They keep showing me appreciation. And that is the relationship of loyalty that we created. There is no difference in med spas. So when we created Get Kudos was exactly for that, because we realize that a lot of med spas do today, and they do a lot of mistakes today, and we're going to touch that also in this episode, but the most common ones, because when you think about it from the financial side, again, and it's something that I do a lot, the data analytics, it's almost terrifying to know where they're going to be in 3 years. And so the ones that I'm able to save, I save them early, they come on board, make the changes that they need to change, and now they're operating more successfully. But a lot of med spas using the membership just for discounting. And so the patient that they actually retain are there for the discount, not because they're happy, not because they really want to bring them more business and bring them their friends or stuff. They just use it to get, instead of going to Groupon and Coupon. But when you think about it from a marketer place, that's exactly the opposite of what you're trying to gain from memberships. Membership, to your point, they need to spend more. Actually, loyal customer, if done correctly, spend between 2 to 4 times more than a non-loyal customer and come back more often and leave you a review. And so there is a lot more positive activity when you launch it correctly. Practices who don't do any type of membership totally lose the ball. Like, I think it's a huge mistake. You have to offer something, but offer it from state of mind of appreciation versus let me try to either keep them hostage because I'm taking from them a deposit, or I'm going to use it for massive discounts because they already pay for it in advance, which they didn't really pay for it, but you're just holding the money for them. And
I
so
think you're alluding
I think that that's
to
a lot of the.
I think you're alluding to memberships a little bit there, and a little bit later in the show, I'm going to ask you some questions about memberships because I know you have a wealth of information.
Yes, yes. But the retention part is really any business that you think about it that do recurring, right? We're talking about recurring. And I'm in the SaaS world. That's been my world since I'm very, very young, since my teenager age. I launched my first SaaS platform. In SaaS, everything is about compounded growth because it's all about the recurring, the month-to-month recurring revenue. And when you think about revenue, it's just like patients that coming through the door. It just depends how you want to see them, really. But it's all about keeping the customers that you have in instead of all the time trying to get new. So when you get the new, it's on top. It's not a replacement. And today, the game of a lot of the practices is the replacement. It's a hot seat, and they don't understand why their providers are never busy. Or they bring new provider because they had some opportunity to bring new provider who may not come with a portfolio of patients like they would think that they will, as they normally negotiate. And they need to keep them busy. And then they see there and they're not busy and they don't understand why. It's because even the provider that they have will never become busy if they are leaking existing customers. It's that simple. So just need to think about compounded growth and how that works. That's really the leaky problem. So they have to fix the leak, and then the water going to start to overflow
In
the
so
bucket.
many
That's
of
right.
these industries too. I mean, this is Alm or Firm Media or what. These are not the only businesses over the years that I've developed, right? And I bootstrapped most of the businesses that I bootstrapped all of them, and the restaurants that we have that we run, or the nonprofit, or the what I'm trying to do here with Alm and the podcast and the magazine, and also Firm Media. Every time the company has grown and I've gotten further, I kind of look at it as like a diagram. Like, you have the founder in the middle, right? And then as the company grows, you add a circle, and then the founder moves out there. And then as the company grows, you add another circle, and then the founder moves out there. And the further I got away from the center, the businesses became less about relationship. They became harder to run and less profitable. So I think what the essence of what you're saying is that the compounded interest sometimes is driven by relationship, right?
Exactly correct. It's building the relationship, and only then you're going to become busy. I know a lot of practices runs for years, and they still don't know if they're going to be busy next month because they run it at transactional level, not relationship, no loyalty. And to me, when I think loyalty, I say relationship. Really, it's almost the exact same word. And if you don't know who's coming next month, you're in a problem.
Yeah, and the essence of like situations like networking, right? The same is like relationship based, right? Like
Exactly.
Let's say hypothetically you have a product and I say, or I have a product and I say, Isaac, if you can bring me a customer, I'll give you 10%. Or Isaac, you introduce me to somebody who's going to be a client of mine, and then last month I introduced you to 3 people who are going to be a client of yours, right? Would you rather have the 10% or the 3 clients?
3 clients every day, every day.
Yeah, and there's no relationship in the 10%, right? but where there's relationship, there's motivation to keep doing that. So
That's exactly.
I think it's a great concept. I have another question for you. Get Kudos helps practices automate loyalty, rewards, referrals, and reviews. Can you walk us through the platform, what problems it solves for aesthetic and wellness practice?
It really starts with, and again, data analytics, right? I see that a lot of mistakes that med spas or aesthetic practices makes, and again, it's because they don't look at the data or they don't ask. They assume that everybody's happy. In reality, they're not. Because even if they come at the checkout point and somebody from the front asks, how was your experience today? And they're going to be great. But they never come back. So we know that they're not happy. We know that there is areas where we can do better. The way that we created Get Kudos starts from satisfaction survey. If I don't know if they're happy, I'm not going to offer them loyalty. I want to fix what's going to make them happy. And so that's really where everything starts. It's the patient walks outside of the treatment room or within inside the treatment room, we ask them to scan a QR code, let them know how was the experience today. Based on that rank of the experience, we start to take them through intelligence flows. And we work with the practices, of course, to make sure that everything that we offer makes sense, right? And not all the time we offer something. But in return for feedback, I always say, to me as a business owner, and I'm sure you're going to emphasize with that, to me, more important to know what is not working versus know what is already working.
Sure.
And so asking my happy patients, are you happy? And they say happy. To me, now I see opportunity to take them to the next step of the funnel to turn them into a raving fan, which means leave me a Google review or any type of online review that I care about. Give me your friends and family, come back more often, spend more money, try new services. That's what I can work with you if I already know that you are happy. If I already know that I'm at the peak of your satisfaction, you're going to continue to come here because we have a relationship. Anything below that is an opportunity to improve. So even when you think about the NPS score, the Net Promoter Score, which is a question that we all get when we leave hotels or exclusive parks or anything like that, would you refer your friends and family here? And it's 1 to 10. There is only one correct answer, 10. Sure. Anything below 10, it's an opportunity to improve. And so anything below that, it's what we work with the practices to really encourage the patient and make it extremely simple to tell us what is it that we can do. And then if it's applicable, we offer them an incentive to come back again and see that we implemented that feedback. And I think that that is a huge differentiators between operating with the assumption that everybody is happy, and I don't understand why they don't all want to pay for my membership and want to come back and refer me to their friends, versus first know who is happy, only ask from them what you want to ask, and fix everything that all the others tell you. And that will form them into the best business they can ask. And so that is really kind of like the way that it works. It's really start from there. And then from after that, of course, once we identify who is the happy, we have a lot of different automation, and there is a lot of psychology behind loyalty. There is, and it's a very interesting, and when you start to dig and read into that, and you realize that there is so many different forms of how to do it, right? You have the Amazon, the Costco, you have all of those are forms of memberships, really. And so what is the one that fits the right to this business? I always say, it's almost when people come and ask me, which is the most important KPI for me to measure? And I'll say, well, it depends on the area of focus, right? What is more important for you? To generate referrals, to get your existing customer to come back more often for services, for them to just spend more money. If your average spend per patient is high, let me just try to bring your patients more often. If it's low, let's try to get them, right, to try new services or spend a little bit more money or buy retail or all those other revenue opportunities that you may don't take advantage because you don't format that the right way and you just keep bringing them back to the same non-profitable or just the same service often again. And so there is really ways how we work with the practices to understand what is their goal, where is the opportunity. We dive a lot into the P&L, right? In the P&L, I can see where are the revenue sources. And if they do it right, I can see it by the service of the machines. Now, if we also know what is the most profitable, we help them to navigate. Because like I said, most successful business is not the highest revenue. It's the one keeping the most EBITDA. So the magic is really to find how we can turn, for example, we teach in 4S and really all the time that been working with practices in one way or another, teaching them to get to retail to become 20% of their total revenue. That is the opportunity right there. Now, retail is by far, I'll say, one of the most profitable thing. Although it's a small ticket, but it's an add-on to every visit patient come. Because if they don't buy it here, they buy it elsewhere. 100% of the aesthetic practice patients buying aesthetic products, cosmetics, retail. And so either the med spa or that aesthetic practice will sell it, or they go elsewhere. So we're really trying to incentivize to get that every time that they come, right? So we're trying to really work with them more from a strategic, achieve their goals, and not just try to get the patient keep coming back, because we've seen that happen a lot. And that's where I mentioned before, and I know we're gonna touch it a little further. That's where they're becoming just a group on steroids. That's what those practices turn into.
Sure.
And
100%.
that's not going to take them to where they want to get.
100%. You touched on something earlier where, and you and I have talked about this before. For every single client that I have in whether it's a plastic surgery, med spa, oral surgeon, whatever, I do an annual sort of strategy and ROI audit review. And a part of that process is to ask them how do they sort of assess for patient or client satisfaction. Almost 100% of the practices have nothing formal that they do, right? Like you're saying, like just a simple NPS scale of 1 to 10, would you refer to your friend or not? And then that can take you into
yeah. And I'll tell you what I found actually works even better than an NPS. So there is the most two common surveys, satisfaction survey. One of them is the NPS, which is probably the one that we know the most, right? But really the one that works better even for med spa, that is more based on individual interactions with the customer and not like hotel, I'm checking out, would you refer your friends? It's called the CSAT, the customer satisfaction. Now, the place that we are the most commonly see it, it's actually the bathroom at the airports, wherever travel. Those three smiley faces, the happy and neutral and upset. So we also support that. So instead of showing them a meter 1 to 10, ultimately it translates to exactly the same. Either you're happy, you're so-so, or you're unhappy. And they found that that's actually simpler to patient to express where you fall and not be like, are you 7 or 8 or 6? Sometimes people are not sure, which ultimately all results in the same answer. You're not super happy. And so we found that that works better. But you 100%. I was just now at the MedSpa Pro, right? Giving presentation, talks all about loyalty, everything. There was also a panel before I went up on the stage. There was a panel and one of the doctor, physician, very successful, running also MedSpa, the whole thing. And somebody from the crowd asked him, oh, what about the happy patients? What about survey? Asked them. And he's like, I put a survey. He was there for months. Nobody replied. And I scratched my head and I'm like, well, I think 1, the expectation was probably false. 2, if you don't encourage them, nobody do it. It's not, it's given reward. That's how most people react, especially nowadays when everything is like gamifying and give you comfy when you touch the screen and everything needs to be rewarding. Replying on a survey is not rewarding. So unless you express the importance of it for you as a business owner to say your word or your feedback worth gold for us. If you don't mind to take 10 seconds, just let us know how was your experience today. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. You can have QR codes printed all over the place. I walked into some practices that have like 7, 8 different QR codes all over for different stuff that they have in the practice. None of those QR codes are getting scanned. Ever. Unless the ones that given by the doctor says, scan this if you want to learn more. That gets scanned. But that's how it works. So there is so much noise around. You need to help the patients and the customers really to focus on what's important for you. You need to ask it. And if you're not going to ask it, there is no magic. There is no, I put it over there, it started to happen. Not with survey, not with Google reviews, not with any. And you can use automation. I'm getting probably, just today, I probably got 3 survey for different conferences that I've been, hotel that I visit. Oh, just take 2 minutes, just let us know how it was. T-Mobile, everybody asks for survey. Maybe I'll answer 1 because it's more close to heart for me, but most people will never answer that.
But I mean, most of our practices that we're working with, or most I come across, that they're just asking, how was your service today, right?
And then they
how
hear
many
a lot.
times have you been at a restaurant, right? You're sitting at the table, you're talking to the person across the table from you about maybe like the service wasn't so great or this wasn't so great. And then someone walks up to the table and says, how's everything going? And you don't want to hassle it. So you're like, everything's great, right? I may not come back here again. I may not have really liked the service, but I'm not going to have a full-blown conversation with you about the minor details of what I didn't like about the experience, where I might if I encourage them to get involved in maybe a 10-second survey. So I feel you there. I do have
Yeah,
another question.
yeah, and sometimes it's like, and sometimes I'm just going to tap here a little more, because sometimes it's a super small detail that the patient don't even think that it's relevant to mention verbally, or they don't feel comfortable, but it's gold because maybe they waited too long, or today hurt because it wasn't their standard provider that they have, or whoever was at the front desk was not nice. Those things that as a business owner, you will never hear verbally and you will never know. And those things hurts your business.
Yeah,
That's the difference between the patient.
Especially if the ticket, it's a bigger ticket item, right?
Exactly.
If I'm going somewhere
Because all it takes.
if I'm going somewhere for a manicure or pedicure, that's not a big ticket item. Some things are a little inconvenienced, whatever, it's late. It is what it is, right? Maybe even my Botox, whatever. But I don't get Botox, but you get it. But if I'm going in for maybe a package of laser treatments that's going to be $1,500, and I get to choose where I want to spend that money, right?
And that's where I said it's very psychological, because it goes beyond that. It's not even for the customer itself. As a business, yes, it's very important, the volume, right? The size of the ticket. Although if I'm a nail business, this is my bread and butter, right? That's the component. I need all the people to come back. But from the patient side, it's the story that later I'm going to tell my friends. And that's what practices misses. If I was hurt today, if somebody was not nice to me today, if I needed to wait a long time, when I go back to work tomorrow, I go back home later, when I speak to my friend after the visit, and I'm going to share the experience that I have, because that's what friends do. They share experiences. I'll be like, yeah, the place I always go, I've been here for 5 years, but today it was different provider. He actually hurt. Nobody doesn't hurt, blah, 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 blah. That what my friend is going to, she's going to hear, don't go there anymore. That's the first thing she hears. 2, if she already have a different place, that's her opportunity to move me to a different place. That's how you lose me as a business. Because I shared bad experience, and now she promised me a better experience somewhere else. And that's what little bad experience does to your business. And that's why, to my opinion, the magic is in the details, and no feedback is a bad feedback.
Sure.
Simple as that.
So earlier you touched a little bit on sort of leaks, financial leaks. This next question sort of breaks off a little bit from Get Kudos, because I know you have a wealth of information about sort of looking at the financials of a practice. Specifically, we've been talking lately a lot about med spas. And because of med spas, I want to ask you a question about memberships. You talk a lot about identifying loyalty and financial leaks. What are some of the issues that practices face, and how can they start avoiding some of these pitfalls?
Let me start from the main one that I've seen. And I think it's the main one. I'll say, to me, it's the main one because I see it happens. And like I said before, I hinted, I rescue some people out of this because it's like a digging hole. And a lot of practices are digging holes. And when I say digging holes, I mean liability. A lot of the memberships that are being offered out there are beauty banks. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that beauty banks or liabilities are bad things. They're not bad things if you are a Starbucks that accumulate $1.9 billion in liability, and you have figured out the way, a strategy, how to handle it, and you can regulate it, and it's part of your business model. For a med spa, carrying liabilities, that compounded growth liability, which is exactly that, beauty banks, it's a problem. And the problem there is...
Can you elaborate a little bit on beauty banks for our listeners who don't necessarily know that term?
Yes, yes, thank you. Beauty banks is the most common format that I've seen happening in our industry. You pay me $100, you're really depositing, let's say 100, 200, 500, everybody has something else, and you get a package of discounts and perks and good of stuff to apply the money that you give me against that as a credit. Sometimes I've seen practices who even match it with like a 5%, almost like 401k, which is, I did like this with my hand because it's crazy to me. Because not only it's not your money, you're also giving a discount, and now you're also giving a double discount on everything. And so you're potentially losing money. And so I'm going to wait a minute before I'm speaking about losing money from the package itself, from the incentives. Let's go over liability. Most aesthetic practices, plastic surgeons and med spa, and primarily med spas, operated on a cash-based accounting. There is 2 different types of accounting: cash basis and accrual. Accrual meant to handle or identify at least liability separately on your books, so you won't pay taxes for it. Most, when I say most, beyond 90% of our industry operate as cash. So when you take credit for anything, gift card, memberships, any type of liability, you recognize it as revenue, which means you're paying taxes for that. Taxes are not cheap, as we all know. And the problem here, or the problem that's waiting around the corner, until there, it is a semi-problem, but it's not a problem. The problem here is the assumption. The assumption of most med spas or practices is that 100% of this liability will cash out by patient. In reality, 20% we're never going to get cash out. 20% of that liability funds are going to continue to carry with you. And it's 20 that's going to continue to grow. Just like, and I encourage everybody, go read about Starbucks. How did they get to $1.9 billion of accumulation in liabilities? You're going to follow the same threads, right? Yeah. I hope for you to get to that volume, which I doubt, but it's going to accumulate to a very high amount. It can get to hundreds of thousands of dollars within 2, 3, 4 years. And so what is the strategy of handling it? If you already pay taxes for it, in some practices, they already pay commissions and bonuses for it. Then the patients, those 20% of the patients, some, not all, for sure, I'll say, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, will come and say, I want my money back. It doesn't work out for me at the end. My son moved to school, I'm doing renovation. I didn't like those services that I have inside this membership. Just give me my money back. It's my money, right? I deposit that for you. You're going to give me. Now you have two options here. As a business owner, you can pull the agreement that I probably signed that says no refunds at the bottom and say, listen, you signed, there is no refund in ours. Use it or lose it. Likely, I'm probably going to use it in one way or another. I figured out a way to use it as a patient, but then I'm going to turn around, go to Google reviews and all my friends and be like, this was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. I intend to be the most loyal customer. I give them my money. And when I come to time for me to ask back, help me, they turn their back. That's one scenario. The second scenario is I'm a business owner. I can choose between doing the right thing and the smart thing. I'm not going to do the right thing and I'm not going to open the contract and say, you signed, you're not going to get your money. I'm going to do the smart thing. I'm going to give you back the money because my relationship is more important. Think how much money I lost. A lot, between the taxes, commission, and everything else. And all the good perks that you may already took advantage of as well.
Sure.
So it's a lose-lose no matter what. No matter what. When the results can become exactly the same way from a different strategy and way more profitable. So let's take an example, Amazon Prime. And I'm using Amazon Prime because 100% of the people I know in the US have Amazon Prime somehow. Sure. Everybody. And we all pay the yearly 150, 200, whatever it is at this point, right? And the terms keep changing, right? I used to return packages by just putting it outside of the door. Now I need to go to the UPS. So it's not all just getting improved. There is also some stuff. But as the overall, it's a great membership. Why? I'm Prime. I'm getting my shipping for free. Used to be all 2 days. Now they play a little bit with the dates and they merge them, right? I totally get it. They also need to make better.
Sure.
But the bottom line is, are they making money on me? Yeah, because nobody give me back that membership money to use it against Amazon. They make money from everything else that I buy there, right? Everything else works. I have loyalty. I enjoy shopping over there. It's not the cheapest anymore. You maybe used to be. Not the cheapest anymore. I can find cheaper things outside. Well, but it's convenient. I'm used to it. I already have money invested. I'm already Prime. Right. I can go to Walmart and probably also get over $50. I get free shipping. But I'm still going to Amazon. Why? Because I already paid for that. And so that's where it goes and said. Loyalty is all psychological. I have vested. The same with Costco. I can get a lot of the things in Costco elsewhere, but I already have membership. I'm going there. I know that if I don't like it, I can return it. Nobody asks me questions. Those are the perks that I get granted that I like, appreciate it as a member, and I'm willing to pay for it. For those benefits. I'm not paying you to give me discounts. I'm paying you to show me that you appreciate my business with you. And that's true loyalty. And so now we're going to touch the second thing. So the first one, reliability. How you lose money. No matter what the outcome, you're going to lose your money. One, or customer or money. Which then you're going to lose their lifetime value as a customer.
Sure.
We're talking about the offering. Practices using memberships instead of going to Groupon coupon, which to me it's nuts. Memberships are not made to give a discount. They give you benefits. Benefits are different. Benefits are value. Which means you come, I'll give you 15% off on all my retail, right? but I know I'm retaining my margins on retail, so I can afford it. And then if you want to come shop for your entire family as far as I care. I'm still going to make my money. I'm not going to give you offering that's going to put me in a hole. Just yesterday I got a chance to analyze somebody's membership because I'm offering now, as part of Get Kudos, I'm doing assessments, membership assessments. You already have something, it's already working for you, great, stay with it. You don't have to move to Get Kudos. Let's make sure it makes sense, because a lot of them do not make sense. And the offering was, you pay me money, you get it as a credit, you're also getting 10 units of Botox right there on the spot, and you're also getting Botox for $8 a unit. And you're also getting a bunch of other discounts on many other things and more free stuff. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it and I'm like, you're not making money from your membership. But he's like, yeah, but people keep paying. I'm like, of course they keep paying because you take advantage. That's not loyalty. You're gonna stop
I
it.
gave you
They're gonna
100
go
and
elsewhere.
you gave me 150 back.
Yeah, listen, if the guy go and put on Groupon Botox $8 a unit plus 10 Botox for free when you walk in, he's gonna get the whole town. You don't need to take money from people. That's not loyalty. That's not membership. That's not profitable. That's exactly the other way around from it. But the misconception of keep seeing the money deposit to your bank, which is not your money, makes them think that he's successful. Because you keep seeing the same people keep coming back, but they don't buy more. They buy what you capsulate them to buy at a discount that you cannot afford to give. And so that's the second problem by far that I see. One, liability. Two, not only liability, then you also offer stuff that you operate based on margin. I always said the most important 3 KPIs for practices. Maybe I'll leave it to the end. I'm going to wrap it up with this. I'm going to hold here. I'm stopping. I know I'm going to give a takeaway. That's going to be my takeaway, going to be the 3 KPIs.
That's perfect. Such a wealth of information. I always love talking to you. I've taken some notes here just for sort of consulting insights for people. As you talked about things, I thought, oh, that practice is having that problem. You know what I mean? Note that I made. So I always appreciate that about you. Thank you for being on the show. This is the point in the show where I ask you for your Alm Essential Insight, right? So what is one takeaway you would leave our listeners with or our practices with as they go into their week?
My takeaway, or the giveaway, I'll say, is the 3 most important KPIs every practice should measure, no matter what stage you are. And I always say KPIs are really based on where are you in your life cycle as a practice, areas of focus. There is 3 that no matter what are always critical. Your patient conversion rate, how many new patients are you able to gain every month from consults? Your retention rate, how many of those you're keeping in the bucket so you don't leak them out, so you can create this compounded growth, and your EBITDA. No matter what you did in order to gain those 2, you need to stay profitable. And if you're not, you're doing a bad business. You better abandon some of those things that you do today. Keep it slimmer. To your point, I've seen some one providers who are doing amazing. Once they grow, they start to lose.
Sure.
Think what you want to do, where you want to be, what works for you, but focus on those KPIs to form whatever it is that you form has to support those to be positive. They have to work with this. That's the framework of your business, of any business. You have to focus on those and be obsessed about patient experience. If you can be obsessed about it and really put yourself in the shoes of the top service you ever expect, then you can charge the top service you want. Then you get the margins that you want. Then you can keep investing in your patients. And you're getting into the cycle where you see all those Four Seasons Hotel, Disney, and you ask, people are paying those crazy numbers. That's how they do it. Wow. They give something outstanding, and they charge outstanding, and people expect outstanding, and they come. That's what you want for your patients.
If there's a soundbite that I'd like to take away from this episode, it would be obsessed about the patient experience. Be obsessed about that.
That's how I finish all my latest presentations.
Izhak, I always love talking to you. As I mentioned before, thank you for being on the show. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Florida in a few weeks. Can't wait for it.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me again on your show. I really appreciate it. And I love everything you guys do.
Please give us a like and subscribe to stay up to date with the Elm Practice Education series.